Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Code of the ProPhysique.
Code beep beep bleep
Also
bleep
known
blop
as
ones and zeros.
the ProPhysique Code. And today it's going to be me and my main man, Steve Beaugrand. And we're going to talk about what was one of the most densely populated contest prep weekends of the year, possibly all time. Like, I don't remember having this many people and this many different shows on the same weekend. And it kind of snuck up on me because it just did. I remember writing peak week plans the week before thinking like, another one. Like, it just got to the point where I was like, I was near 30 competitors and I was like, okay, what's happening? And then I was like, oh, it's the last weekend before Thanksgiving. All the promoters are putting shows on. So yeah, I'm sure you had a similar feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of those things. I think this year for me, and I'm gonna say I didn't, but that's because I've been trying to get people like the most of the year I knew with my honeymoon that I didn't want people competing too late in the year. So I tried
Yeah.
to get most of my people earlier in the year. So a lot of my competitors are in all that is due to my own selfish design to some degree there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if I look at a lot of the competitors I had at these shows, these were competitors that were competing earlier in the year, and we opted for shows like the Ben Weider, right, as a really
Yep.
good option. So it just worked out that way. And then obviously I was at Tim's show in Fort Lauderdale, which has Masters and Open Pro Bikini, which is a great option. There was also Masters USA Championships, which while it's my least favorite of the Masters Pro qualifiers, it is still a pro qualifier. And if you've got someone good, got to get them in, so just a lot. And then that's it for me. I got one more show this year. It's nationals. I'm kind of thankful that it's on a Friday. The bikini's on Friday, so it's going to be nice to be coming home on Saturday and then home for a while. Yeah, so
Yeah, I will say that was nice. Like it was kind of nice to fly up to DC Thursday morning nice and early and then be home by Saturday night.
yeah,
Like that it's kind of a nice thing because then you have Saturday night still, so it's kind of like, all right, cool. If you want to like go out to dinner with the missus or whatever, I can still do that. And then you actually have all day Sunday instead of, sometimes when you get home from those weekend shows, if you don't get home till late Saturday or even on a Sunday, sometimes it doesn't quite feel the same. So I really liked that all the women and the pros were on Friday for Ben Weider, which also I'm sure broke things up nicely for you because like, okay, cool, we have a big chunk Friday and then a lot of another chunk Saturday.
yeah. So
That probably made it a
originally
little
my
bit more.
plan was to be at the Ben Weider, but my wife had really been wanting to take a vacation with the kids. So the week of that show, we took a vacation. My original thought was I'll just fly up, but when you said you were interested in going, I was like, you know what, Steven, you take the wheel. So I basically just had you kind of running the show up there at DC, which was nice because you got to meet everybody at the gym, see them in person. And that show because you competed there last year, but like sometimes just knowing the mechanics of the city, the show, the venue really does give you an advantage because a lot of these competitors are flying in blind. So when you tell them where to go, where to be, it gives them some direction. And I'll be honest, I think I had 17 at that show. It was quiet. It was quiet for me. Like you crushed it. Like they were like, Steven's on top of this. I felt like you were here and I was like, cool, that's what I needed to hear.
I mean, yeah, I just not quite as tall. I didn't have the glasses, so it was like, if you had your contacts in, it was a little bit more similar to that
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah. I'll work on that. I'll get you a pair of glasses. But
Ugh.
we think the same way in terms of peaking. We know when people are flat or when they're full or when they're soft. And so I felt like, all your assessments were exactly what I would have said. And plus, turns out that the internet is real bad in that building.
It's so bad.
So like, even if my clients, and I was available Friday morning, I was fully available. I was actually at Brett's gym watching the live stream, but they couldn't message me anyway. Like I was getting text messages from them after prejudging because they would like go
Yeah.
outside with their phones. So
Yeah,
I'm going to say going forward, we have to be there in person.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that is one of those venues, because it's in the basement of the hotel.
Yeah.
So no matter what provider you have for your phone, when you're under that much concrete and there's just no signal getting through.
Yeah, I
um,
remember I was there this year for the DC Pro with Angela and Maria, and I remember having to go outside to like text message people.
yeah, but the good part is with how one they still had contact with you anyways, right? So like when we were posing Thursday and I was looking at everybody, I was still able to get good videos, and we were over at DMV Iron, and they have that posing room with that half natty lighting that just makes you
Yeah.
look insane.
Yeah.
Um, so I was able to kind of get a good read on everybody there. If there were any kind of tweaks or things that needed to happen with posing, like I got to see those. I got to, maybe give some of the cueing in terms of, all right, hey, this is the only thing I'm seeing with you. This is what I want to be aware of. So that was awesome. And then you were still in contact with them. And I kind of just said, hey, this is what I'm seeing. And then Friday, that was when it was more like, okay, this like it's just not going to happen with the back and forth. So like being able to be there and be like, okay,
Yeah.
hey, this is just what we want to be aware of. This is what I need from you right now. It was because it's weird for me also, because I'm like, I don't want to step on Paul's toes either. But it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously you trust me enough to be there. So you trust me enough to, if something's going on day of the show, address it however we can.
Yeah, for me, it's all about making sure the competitor feels confident. On show day, I'm only going to really mention the things that we can control. If I feel like it's something that's not going to be beneficial to them, I'll tell them after the show. I'm not going to be like something like if it's 5 minutes before we walk on stage, I'm not going to be like, your tan sucks. There's no benefit, right? After the show, I can be like, hey, maybe next time our tan could be better. But like, so I'll focus on the things we can control. So I know you're the same as me. So I'd rather, like I said, be there in person. So for those that aren't familiar with the Ben Weider show, this is to my knowledge, it's the only drug tested pro qualifier. I mean, maybe there's one somewhere else, but in the United States, definitely it is. It's not a national show. I see a lot of people being like, doing nationals. It's not nationals. It is actually a anomaly because it used to be based in Montreal. So for those that don't know, if you do an NPC worldwide competition that has a pro show, the NPC worldwide portion of that show is a pro qualifier for the overall winners. That's true all over the world. This show used to be an international show. They brought it to the States because of COVID, and they just kept it here and kept the rules because I think they had such a good turnout. And obviously Gary, loves the show. So I don't think that it's necessarily a national show. National shows to me are Junior USA's, Junior Nationals, University. Those are the national shows. This is a NPC technically worldwide. Now they did change the rules this year, Stephen, right? Because your girl was going to do it and she needed to qualify.
The story. Yeah, because I did the show last year, and to be fair, I told Gracie, I was like, I should have known. Like I should have been paying attention because I missed that they changed it to having to be like you have to qualify if you're.
So they also changed that for all the worldwide shows. I think they got tired of people just showing up and turning pro.
Probably. So the funniest thing ever, it's like Friday, halfway through the day, and she texts me, like, oh, hey, like we have to qualify for this show. And this is a week prior. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, well, we could do the show the next day, right? The armed forces one. Cause she's a firefighter and she's a badass and all that kind of good stuff. And she's like, no, there's a show tomorrow. Like Sean said she would help me out. Like she'd lend me a suit. She'd do my makeup and hair. As the literally she jumped into a show with less than a day's notice the week prior. We're like, all right, we're gonna do a free meal and try and fill out.
Yeah.
And she won her class. She got like second in the overall. I was like, hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
It was just such a funny thing. So we had to do that because we missed it. And I know a lot of other people actually missed it or were unaware. Because there were a lot of people that moved from doing the Ben Weider show on that Friday to the armed forces the next day because they hadn't qualified for it. And they were unaware that did change this year.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard that. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So yeah, so the Ben Weider, for you guys that are interested in doing it next year, make sure you're what's the qualification? Is it just the top 5 or?
It's just do a show. So it's the same as like Masters Nationals qualification.
Yeah.
You just have to have competed.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. And I mean, honestly, not for nothing, guys, but the caliber of the show is nowhere near a national show. It's not even a fraction of that. You know, there's definitely going to be some talent there. Couple of the class winners are going to look amazing, but it's not going to be a very deep show. Because it's natural, and I don't know. Maybe it will in the future. It'll just continue to improve. But it's just the nature of that show right now is, you know, the overall winner gets a pro card. I think a lot of people immediately go, I don't want to do it. Only one pro card. But for me, it's always it's a great one to do because it is drug free, and you know that's the bulk of my athletes are going to be natural. So it's always fun for me to put some girls in there, and you know it can be a great starting point. I think you know, everyone saw Lana Dunbar. She won her pro card there, and then 2 weeks later in Texas got top 5 at her pro debut. So just because you're natural doesn't mean you're not a good competitor.
Yeah. And I mean, so there's this interesting thing too, because I feel like the team has had a lot of good success at this show as well. Not only with like when Lana went pro and then when Brittany won the show and went pro last year, but at the pro level as well. Like we've had competitors that are highly competitive and doing well at the show, which is also freaking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year, Anne Marie took second. And then decided to go have a baby. So congrats to her because she did it. She's got a little boy now. And then this year, Brittany won it. So cool to get the Olympia qualification out of the Ben Weider.
Yes.
Very, very competitive first call out. It looked really good. So it's just, yeah, it is one of those shows that's like, it's definitely going to be on our radar for the foreseeable future. They kind of move it around a little bit. I feel like, was it the same weekend last year or no?
I mean, I couldn't even tell you. I just remember last year it was the hurricane weekend, and like I was
Yeah.
on the last flight out of Tampa before the airport shut down.
Yeah.
That I like barely made it.
Yeah, that's I mean, I stayed home because of the hurricane because my wife's like, yeah, you're not leaving us in a hurricane. I was like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm like,
Ended up
this is 2
being
years in a row.
yeah, ended up being nothing more than a windstorm. So no, next year I am going. It's honestly like it's one of my favorite shows. And not for nothing, if they have it on Friday again next year, it's very easy for me to come back to the Atlantic coast, which is on a Sunday. So, you know, you can
I mean,
double dip
didn't
with the same
somebody
weekend.
else do that?
What's that?
I said, didn't somebody else do that same thing after the show?
Cash.
That's Shanika too.
Shanika actually did the show and competed, but
Yeah.
Neil Cash, who's a friend of mine who coaches, he was at the Ben Weider, and then I saw him in Atlantic Coast on Sunday. So he coaches Jazzy. So like, yeah, he did both too. So it's not uncommon. Actually, the guy Chris from Montreal, he's a really good coach up in Canada. I was on his like the last time I did that, I was on his flight the next morning and I saw him and I'm like, hey man, we're doing the same thing. We're going from one show to the other. It's not something, you know, you want to do all the time, but it's kind of fun. So and the other thing about this show, they run it kind of uniquely. It's I like to call it block formatting, where they do competitors in groups, get their prejudging, their routines, and their awards all at once, and then they send them off, and then they're done for the day. So it's kind of nice. Some people get frustrated because they don't go on stage till 4. But then I think when they realize they're on stage from 4 and they're off by 6, they're like, wait a minute, that was pretty cool.
Well, I also like that as a coach, like to a certain degree, because you know how it is. Like sometimes people wake up pristine and they're on. Sometimes people wake up and maybe there's some stuff that we can do to maybe make them a little bit better throughout the day. So when you have that extra time, like you can eat a little bit more and still fill out before you get on stage, or you can rehydrate a little bit more. Whereas if you're on the early show, I mean, there's like positives and negatives to both, right? So I don't mind that. And especially with how we prep where people are still eating and drinking all day, I just feel like most other competitors that aren't doing that are getting worse throughout the day with those later start times, and ours are staying the same or getting better typically. So I really don't mind that.
No, absolutely not. I don't mind it. I just think some people are like, they feel weird about it because they're so used to getting on stage at 9. But especially our competitors who are typically eating so much the day before the show that if we don't feed them on show day, they start to flatten out. So, I mean, I'll even have, if I have a girl going on stage at 4 or 5 p.m. at a show, I might even have them eat and go to the gym in the morning just to like move and just keep things going. Not necessarily to, you know, get a workout in, but more just to, you know, stay busy, keep the food digesting, because competitors aren't used to sitting around all day. It's just not our nature, especially at that point of prep.
Wait, you guys don't like being lazy? It's my favorite.
I mean, like you almost get anxiety if you're not doing enough, right? So
yeah, for sure.
So all right, well let's run through it, because we had, I think, did we have only females, or do we have any men on the team competing? Because I feel like there was a man.
I do not think that we had any males.
Okay.
I think it was all females, because everybody was on Friday, and all the guys for Ben Weider were Saturday morning.
Okay, because I didn't know if maybe one of our other coaches had a dude in the show. So yeah, and I think it was mostly to bikini. Do we have any? Oh, I had Mickey. Mickey was in wellness.
Correct. We just had the one wellness, and everybody else was bikini.
Yeah.
The norm.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It does. I mean, imagine if we had to be there for figure and rate, like all the other divisions. Like it gets to be a long day.
I mean, yeah, I ended up being there for pretty much everything, anyways. So it was a long day, but
So it started in the morning with pro bikini, right? That was the first thing.
No, started in the morning with pro men. So all the men's pro divisions was what started Friday morning.
Okay.
So all men's pros did pre-judging. Break, men's finals. Break, all pro women's with bikini last. Break,
okay,
and then
so
pro women's
what
finals.
about what time did the pro women start? Was it like 10 a.m.?
Oh my gosh. I want to say it was probably closer to 11.
Okay.
Just
and
because of the breaks
classes aren't huge, right? Like there's not like 30 girls in each class, and the figure and the wellness. How big are they?
No, I mean, I'd say they were probably pretty normal sized. If anything, maybe a little bit bigger than some of the smaller shows, but I'd say everything was moderate. You didn't have like crazy amounts, but you had a decent amount of people, because there's also a lot of people, both pros and amateurs, that specifically target this show every year.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I've noticed, is that year after years, you see some of the same guys at the show every single year. Like this is their show that they do every year.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of cool on the pro league level as well, to just to see that, like, all right, there's obviously people there that are, still doing that natural show every year. Like that's their thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, in fact, that's a pretty good strategy. I think that was me and Brittany's strategy, was just, that was our target. Like we thought, okay, we can be competitive at this show and to be in that conversation to win. So that was the goal. So all the women's divisions start. I'm trying to remember what time I got to Brett's gym, because he has like an 80-inch TV. So I was actually able to put it on in the gym. I was there watching for first call outs for pro bikini, which before the show started, because I know these competitors very well and I knew the lineup very well. The names that kind of stood out to me were, I saw Brittany the week before at the Olympia. I thought, okay, she's definitely going to get a look. I thought Flora Wang is going to get a look.
Yep.
I thought Janine Herrera, who I had seen compete maybe 8 or 10 times this year and always just brings a really nice overall look. I thought she would be in the mix. I'll be honest, I did not see Lizzie Cunningham coming. I'd seen her a couple times. She's a good competitor, the best she's looked, so congrats to her and Dylan and them. Trying to think who else was on that list that I thought, okay, they could potentially be fighting. I knew Shanika looked really good, but she hadn't been in first call-outs before, so that would have been like a big jump for her. Honestly, yeah, I don't know. I think,
Tony. I saw Tony and I was like, wow.
Tony is so odd because her physique is so good, and sometimes they just don't like her. Like I've seen her get overlooked before. So I could easily see her going from first to 10th, like anywhere in there. So seeing her get in the middle and staying there for a long time, I was like, cool. They're on her today.
Yeah. And it was like, so they had that first call out, and the middle four, it was literally Brittany and Tony splitting center. And then it was Lizzie on one side, and I'm trying to remember who was on the other. I want to say it was Janine, but I think that's in my head.
A girl named Africa Sands, who I've never seen before. And she's stunning.
Yes. So I was like, well, that's pretty good news. And then obviously the final confirmation call out came out. And then it was they ended up with Lizzie and Brittany in the center.
Yeah, which made me much more nervous because no guarantee.
Well, it was funny too, because after the show, I don't know if we want to skip, but like it was like one of them had the front pose and one of them had the back pose.
Right.
So it was just which one had their pose by just a little bit more.
Yep.
To win the show, which is
Yep.
like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's the sport has evolved to the point where they're not just making a decision based on like initial look. They're really picking the girls apart and getting it right. So yeah, it's exciting to see a show judged so well. I really loved, I mean, that's the first time I've ever had 4 of the girls in the first call out before.
Yeah. 4 out of 8.
I was a little I'd say I was more disappointed for Flora than anything because she's been first call outs in open pro bikini all year, right? So I really thought, okay, based on what I was seeing and what I was hearing, I was like, I mean, I literally had a girl from another team, not even our team, message me and be like, oh my God, Flora looks crazy today. So I was like,
Yep.
cool. But they were really looking for fuller glutes at this show, I feel like, and she's got a little bit of a, her glute shape is not as pronounced as some of the other girls.
Yep. I think that was the feedback that I think Becky gave her too, if I'm remembering correctly, was just bringing the glutes fuller.
Yeah.
But I mean, she looks stunning, and her front pose is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. It's out of this world. But pro bikini is tough, and it's very small things, that separate, first and second call outs. Cause, what was it? Oh my gosh. I keep wanting to say Lori, but I think that's wrong. Larissa.
Yeah.
I thought Larissa looked phenomenal too.
Yeah. She got ignored completely. She was in like third call outs, right? Like,
yep.
Yeah, that was another one where I was like, okay, she's been doing well at every level. So I was expecting her to be in that top call out. She can get a little linear. We've really got to make sure we keep her posing right to give her more shape, but conditioning, beauty, core is tight, full glutes, like she's got the bikini package. But again, pro bikini, like, don't rush to get your pro card, guys, because it is,
I tell them, don't rush.
it is a different animal. So, but again, you can't be too disappointed when you have half the first call out. You can't just be like, you got that one wrong.
No, I mean, it was a good show, and Shanika was at her all-time best. I've never seen Shanika so good, which was also awesome, because a lot of people probably don't even realize, like, Shanika poses a good amount of my clients. Like, she does pose for us as well, and she does a good job with that. So, like, seeing her kind of really shine, I think
this is the best I've seen her look since she turned pro. We've never really brought that combination of conditioning, fullness, had everything. Her makeup was great. Her hair was great. Like, I felt like her whole first season, it was like one show we would nail one thing and not the other. And she was over the moon. And that just tells you what expectations can do to you, because while I had Flora crying and I had Shanika like glowing, and they basically got the same placing. So it just tells you what expectations do to a competitor. Flora was expecting to be in the mix, and Shanika was just hoping to get in the first call outs, right? So that's where the expectations come in.
And it's hard, because how do you compete as a pro athlete and not have some semblance of expectations?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But at the same point, I can tell you, like, in 8-10 years of coaching now, the athletes that do the best are the ones that have the least expectations and are the calmest.
I think you and I talk about this a lot when we have a competitor that is like texting us 14 times by 8 a.m. We're like, that's trouble. That's trouble. Not that we don't deal with it, and we work through it, and then we try to, evolve and make the plan better next time. But honestly, the clients that are just like, check in, cool, you don't hear from them after prejudge, and they're like, coach, I was in middle. Like, that's, it's probably one of my favorite questions to ask competitors when they win. Like, how did you feel on show day? And almost always they just say calm. I just felt,
you've done all the work.
Felt confident that they had done the work, and that whatever placing they got, they were okay with, because they were good with it.
I think it's the difference of, like, my goal is to bring out your best, and if you're your best, we've succeeded. The rest is out of our hands. And for people being confident and comfortable with that, like, I'm at my best, whatever else happens, cool. But, like, I have done the work, I have accomplished the goal even before they ever step on stage. And that's kind of a cool thought process as well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So let's so go over the first call outs. So when they all come out, um, the naked eye test, I call it, like you just your eye kind of gravitates to certain people. Where did your eye go immediately?
so honestly, Janine had my eye.
Janine
I saw
Herrera.
Janine Herrera come
Yeah.
out and I was like, Jesus. Um,
She was really full. Her glutes were like huge.
really full and extremely tight.
Yeah.
And I did not hear what her feedback was, or would have been. But that's who my eye initially went straight towards. I was like, holy moly, Janine looks good. And then, I think as first call out came out and they were getting moved around and placed, I was like, okay, maybe in this lineup, it was just a tad too much. Because she didn't really look the same as everybody else, and everybody else still looked good. Like, don't get me wrong. But I was like, maybe it was that touch over the line.
Well, especially just a couple weeks after the Olympia, when they really focused the criteria on no hard edges. Maybe she was just a touch
Right.
over the line.
Yep. And so my eyes kind of were already prepared because I had seen Brittany the day before and she looked phenomenal. I was like, all right, like she is probably about the best I've seen her. And I also saw Shanika and I also saw Tony, and I knew they were all on big time. And then Flora also caught my eye. But for me personally, like I loved Shanika's look. I just felt like she probably needed a little bit fuller glutes to kind of stand next to the other girls because they all have really, really full glutes. So I loved Tony's look, and Brittany's look was phenomenal as well. So those two were probably, and that's probably like, and it's, I want to say coaching goggles, even though they're your clients. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Because I also know them. Like I did the show with Brittany last year when she turned pro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know Shanika. Like I've seen Tony multiple times, and she's posed some of my other clients and such. So like I know those individuals, so that's probably more of it. Africa, I saw, I was like, holy moly, because she also looked absolutely amazing, but she was also a lot more muscular than a lot of the other girls.
She was the one that when they faced the back, I felt like her back pose disappeared a little bit. There didn't seem to be that 3D look on her. I don't know if it was conditioning or what, but from the front, I was like, uh-oh. And then when they faced the back on the live stream, there was just nothing pulling my attention to her. So that was, but they kept her in the top 4, not Janine, right? So I think that was their way of going, okay, Janine looks really good, but she's just a little too much for today.
Yeah, and they pulled the top 4 off, and then they kind of went through the rest of the call outs to kind of get the like second/third call out, or the second, third call out, and figure out fifth and the rest. Obviously, so that's where Janine ended. That's where Shanika ended. And then top 4 ended being, what was it? Africa, Tony, Lizzie, and Brittany. And honestly, I kind of slept on Lizzie too. And I got kind of like rudely awakened. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, when you look at her top to bottom, she's complete.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the only thing that they probably, obviously it's what they said, was they probably wanted fuller glutes on her. Like she won from the front, but Brittany won from the back. And like I said, that difference.
I think it's more accurate to say that she won from the upper body, Brittany won from the lower body.
Yes.
because she has great shoulders, really good shoulders.
She does. And good balance, good posing. Like she was well put together. And I would spent time with their coach a good portion of the weekend too, which was just kind of fun. But it's also cool to see because I love Dylan and Lauren, so I like seeing them in the mix too and being up there.
I know Dylan really wants to get a competitor to the Olympia stage, so there definitely was a point when they were doing the placings, when I was watching them go from 6, 5, 4, 3, and I was like, you know what, like as much as I want this, there's really only a few people that I'd be okay with losing to, and I would have been happy for them. Super bummed for myself and for Brittany and all that, but I'm still glad obviously it went our way, but I was kind of like, man, it would be cool to have Dylan and at the Olympia. I'm sure he'll get there, but it's just like, I just remember how that felt, that first feeling of like, oh my gosh, I get to be a coach at the Olympia. Like that's a career kind of like goal. And he was, right there. So,
Yep. And I think it'll be a matter of time for him. Like
well, it's
he does
also
a good
this
job.
weekend, like I'm going to get into a little bit of my like anxiety this weekend. It's the finality of it. There's nothing else. There's nothing
Yeah.
until next year, like months. So like you either get it. It's like, Ricky Bobby said, you're either first or you're last. Like second place don't matter at these shows. Like if you're not getting the qualification, you're
It
back at
used to,
square one. Yeah,
you know.
you used to get 4 points and be like, cool, I'm third on the points list. Nope. Nope.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, now it's literally like, I mean, it really is Ricky Bobby's situation. Like you got to win. So it was exciting. Um, I was in Brett's gym and the whole, I had all my girls that were competing there. And so they are all watching. Man, that live stream, I got to give like a round of applause to whoever's doing the stuff for Ben Weider, the pictures, the live stream. I could do without the announcers. They weren't really like, top notch.
Oh, who was announcing?
I think it was Diane Brown, who
Oh,
I've
that
known for
sounds right.
years, but they're just not like, they didn't seem to be fully aware of the bikini divisions. That's probably just me being slightly like, you know,
You know what that reminds me of? It
what?
reminds me of the live stream last year, when they were announcing when I came out to my stupid song,
Yeah,
and it's corn song. And like, well, you got to do what you love, I guess. And
yeah.
there's just like nothing
He,
else for them to say.
he's really having fun out there. And that's
Uh,
literally, I mean, I guess if you're talking about a show for 3 or 4 hours, but I would literally be breaking down the show, talking about what's going on. They seem to like be like, well, wait, who gets a pro card? Is it everybody or is it just the who, like they weren't really but like the video, the
oh,
pictures that
video is
have come out.
great.
I mean, these are it's the kind of show you want to do just so you can get these stage pictures.
It's not even just the stage pictures too, because like you can download the live stream and get the video afterwards too, which is
Yeah.
also awesome.
Well, and Gilko was there, and I still
He
don't understand
was.
what he does to his videos. It literally is better than if you're in person. Like it's better than naked eye. It's crazy.
Yeah, I actually met him for the first time.
Mitch,
Here. Pretty
yeah.
nice dude. Yeah.
Oh, he's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
to do what he does, you got to love the sport. You got to know the sport. So, like, he's been really cool to me. Every now and then, like, if I have a competitor in the top, he'll be like, "Hey, man, I'll just send you this one." Just, probably not supposed to
Oh,
say
that's
that,
cool.
but like, yeah, like he's a fan of the sport and of the athletes too. But he's kind of revolutionized stage content. Like those videos are like I can't wait. Like there's another guy that does it for the Tim Gardner shows, the Pro Studio. I can't wait. I haven't gotten the ones like so. Like I just got Brittany's this morning.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
phenomenal. So yeah, it's just fun to
Yeah.
see
So
that.
I mean,
So
all around it was good. Great show. Always fun. Yeah, it's just a good time, man. I feel like it just has a little bit different of a vibe than a lot of
so
the other
the
shows.
pros got done at let's say like 1 o'clock or something, right? Like and they got feedback. And then
I
did
want
you
to
have
say
a
they got
break?
done around like 2. It ran it was a little bit late. It
Okay.
wasn't an early show by any means, but um yeah, we were able to get feedback because Becky actually hung out at the table. And then Brittany was like doing all of her drug test stuff. So I got her feedback. Because she obviously wasn't able to. And then they went right into amateurs.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they had all the amateur divisions, which again is a pro qualifier. So all the divisions have a good amount of competitors. Which is nice that
Huh?
we're kind of focused on bikini because the girls had a little bit of time to get ready.
Yes.
I'm kind of bummed because I don't know why they switched it up, but last year the amateurs went first and then they let the pro card winner compete in the pro show, but they switched that.
Yeah, I mean, uh I don't know. I liked it because last year I was done early because I competed. So like
Yeah.
as a dude, that was awesome. Um, but I also can respect like if you've gotten to a pro level status, like, yeah, let's not make you necessarily wait till the end of the day. Let's get you done. And if things need extra time, we can let the amateurs kind of soak that one up.
Absolutely.
Um, so like props, like give the pros the benefits, you know what I mean? Like they've been around.
Yeah, I'm sure they have their reasons for doing it. And honestly, I thought it was strange. Technically it's a drug tested show. So if you let someone that wins their pro card compete as a pro and they didn't pass their drug test yet, that could be problematic, right? You might have to
Yep,
rescind
maybe.
placings or something like that. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. I like what Junior Nationals is doing this year. They're having a pro show on Sunday. So anybody that earns their pro card on Friday in bikini can compete as a pro on Sunday. I forget what it's called, like the Global Classic. They gave it a name, something like that. That was Sandy's idea. So that's going to be fun.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll have a really good turnout for that show because, you and I are going to be there for Junior Nationals with our competitors. And then imagine like, hey, we're having the pros come up to compete in the show. We'll be fighting for some pro cards. So Sunday could be a really fun day because Chattanooga is really awesome.
Yes. And to your point, they did make a really big deal about it with all the social media posts this year in terms of like making sure people knew what to expect for the drug test, making sure people knew that, hey, if you fail the drug test, this is what's going to happen.
Well, didn't they? I mean, they made a pretty big hoopla. I saw a couple people posting on the internet about certain competitors shouldn't be allowed to compete there because they've been open about drug usage. And I didn't dig too deep down the rabbit hole, but I heard a couple competitors kind of pulled out under pressure.
Yeah, I don't know.
You didn't hear that while you were there?
I know that there were some no shows.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just amateurs and pros. I know there were a lot of people that moved from the Ben Weider to the show the day after, particularly for the amateurs. Now, whether that's because they were worried about testing or they had missed the qualification, whatever, yada yada. But I mean, people were definitely talking about not only the qualification, but yeah, the drug testing stuff too.
Yeah.
So
I
it
think,
was definitely an awareness.
as a coach, I realize that drug testing is not obviously going to catch everybody. But honestly, there's one damn natural show a year. Stay the fuck out of it if you're not natural. That's it.
Well,
Just stay the hell out
well,
of it. Yeah. So that's kind of my thought. And I don't mean like pass the test. I mean, I don't know what their rule is, 7 years, 10 years, whatever the rule is,
3
but
years.
like
So it's 3 years for that show.
Okay. So be 3 years natural. Don't be a crap head.
Crap head.
Yeah.
Not the exact words I would use, but
I don't like to cuss, but yeah, I'll say it off air, but don't be that person. There's just so many opportunities to compete everywhere else.
Yeah.
So
and like no hate, but like those people get one. They get one show
right
in the year. Let them have their show, dude. Let them have their show. Yeah. It's not that hard.
So the NPC, I don't want to dig too far into it because we had some strange things happen. We'll just talk about the highlights. I thought Dilru looked amazing. I was thrilled with her look.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Definitely her best ever posing look.
Yes.
She really hit her poses right. She was full and, something odd went on with her placings where she didn't get on stage for the overall. So she didn't get a shot at posing for the overall,
Masters, yeah.
Which there was a high chance that she was going to win that. So we're sorting through that. The promoter has offered to take care of her entry for her next show. We had the 2 girls in the novice overall, so that was kind of cool.
Almost like a mirror, not quite mirror image, but
I didn't realize how because Kayla is out on the West Coast and Talia's here on the East Coast with me. So I didn't realize how alike they were till the video, I was watching it and they're like literally side by side, same pace, same turn, same walk. Kayla's a little bit taller. Talia's probably got a little bit more glutes, but they're pretty dang similar. And then Kayla won that one. I think the other highlight would have been Anfisa winning class F.
Yes.
So she was in the overall, which was won by a girl with just a crazy. I saw that girl at the amateur Olympia. Crazy structure. Wild.
Yeah, I saw her show up on stage, and as soon as she walked on stage, I was like, "Yep, that's your overall winner." When you go as often as we do, a lot of times you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna," when you know. right?
Yeah.
There's just one person that they're doing their thing and everybody else is with them.
Yeah.
And I think the girl in her class was close, and then some of the other girls in the overall were good, but that the woman that won the overall she was good.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know?
She had the complete look. Yeah, and
Yes.
it's the same thing. You know, the year I went there with Lana, I remember when she came out for her class, a couple of the coaches that were sitting near me were like, "Shit." I could hear them audibly say, like, "Okay, all done. Show's over." And it really wasn't close for the overall for that year. So, but that's kind of what you get at some shows like this. This is almost like a really good NPC show, not a national show. Like you're going to get, you know, 2 or 3, 4 girls in the overall that are going to be kind of close, and usually you're just going to have one girl that's just like, just that annoying girl that everyone's like, you literally see them backstage, give them a little side eye, and you're like, ah, crap.
It was like the dude in the tall class when you did the Miami show. It's
Oh
like
man.
all the way into the last class, and you just see him, and you're like, crap.
Literally, like, why are you standing near me? You're a pro already, right? I remember thinking that because the pro men's physique went right after us. So I kept seeing him walk around. I'm like, yeah, he's with the pros. And then like I go to line up and he just stands behind me. I'm like, great, great. I literally think he was the last competitor of the day.
He was.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Yeah. So, but I mean, overall, you got to be happy with. I mean, the one thing I remember saying to you on Friday when we were, you know, Thursday and Friday was like, everybody looks the best they can look. And that's
Yes.
as a coach, that's what you want. You never want to be like, oh, we would have won if. You want to go, hey, they brought their best, everyone bring their best, and then let's just see where we fall.
And that's really all you can do. Like I know a lot of people get caught up in the placements and the wins and the losses and whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, in this sport, all you can do is be your best.
So you
Like
got a
that has
lot
to
of
be the goal.
feedback, right, between the pros and the NPC. Um, what are some of the themes? Like, what did you feel was like, you know, okay, I get where Becky's coming from. Is there like a consistent theme, like with the division?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the same thing that you expect. I didn't think there was anything that was off. You still need to be well conditioned, right? But you can't do that peak where you come in and there's striation and you're like too hard. You still have to have the muscularity. You still have to have the shape and the structure. Like it's still the whole package. I think a lot of people got like, I don't know, in their heads a little bit with the judges talking about the difference in the Olympia, but at amateur level, you're not going to look like an Olympian. And if you do, you're not going to be on the amateur level for long, right? So you focusing too much on the Olympia criteria, I feel like actually does a lot of people more harm than good as amateurs. Be the most complete bikini competitor you can. That's normally who's winning, and I think that's what we see across the board. I think the problem for a lot of people when they get confused or taken off by the results is they focus on one specific thing instead of looking at the complete package and who is overall who has the
Yeah,
most.
I hear girls say that a lot. Oh, I like to pose like this because it makes my glute look bigger because they'll like push into their glute. And I'm like, yeah, but look at you top to bottom now. Now your stomach is sticking out. Like,
Yep.
so yeah, they'll be so focused on like, oh, look how good my shoulder looks in this pose. And I'll be like, yeah, but look how bad your stomach looks. So it's almost like you need to be able to do the squint test, squint to see the shape, right? Yeah, the silhouette tells you a lot.
Yeah. And you know, obviously, as you get to the pro level, that dividing line of what's enough and not enough, it becomes very small, right? It's now okay. It's just a little bit of like glute fullness up in the upper glutes, right? Or
Yeah.
we didn't quite control our core well enough, and the judges caught it in some transitions and stuff, and so they saw the core get a little bit loose, and that was the thing. But it yeah, I didn't see anything too crazy. I think a lot of the girls that we had on stage have a ton of potential. Some of them are just young, or young
Yeah.
in the sport. They just need time to mature and grow more muscle, which like that's a good thing. That means you get to take some time off. That means you get to live life. You get to work on all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And you get to friggin' lift heavy and eat. Like, I don't know about you. That's my favorite part.
You know, the thing that I like as a coach right now is I feel like the competitors that we have can see the future. They can go, okay, these guys know what they're doing. We have girls at the Olympia, we have girls at nationals turning pro, we have girls at winning overalls. So it's almost like, hey, trust us. We're gonna lead you in the right direction. So yeah, I don't love being in a rush with this sport. Everybody's on a different timetable. And
Yep.
honestly, once you're ready, you're ready. There's not, once you're at Brittany Schulman's level, she doesn't need a complete makeover at this point. She needs a little more upper body muscle and just to continue to remain balanced. And she's going to be a threat at every show. And it's, you know, that's where you want to get. And then once you're there, it's it's there forever because you can't
Right.
outgrow the bikini division. So you've got to just build it up and get there and just stay there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that. Um, they think that things are having these vast changes through and through. But like, and that's the difference. Like when you're at the pro level, you have much smaller changes to make to be where you need to be to make the improvements in your placings. When you're at the amateur level, sometimes you have bigger changes. And that's like going back to what you said, going pro too early. Like that can be tough because then you're at the pro level, but you may still need a lot more time to make the changes to be ready, like truly ready to be a top placer at the pro level. And
Yeah.
that can be tough. That can be really tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ben Weider, phenomenal show. I went home on Saturday. You were still in Fort Lauderdale at the Atlantic Coast.
Yeah. So the Atlantic Coast is a 2-day show. Saturday, Sunday, with the pros being on Sunday. And obviously, with it being the last pro show of the bikini season in the United States, there was actually 3 shows this weekend: the Hawaii, the Atlantic Coast, but obviously I'm pretty close to Fort Lauderdale. Hawaii would have been a stretch. So the day after the Olympia, you know, obviously Ari was number 7 in the world at that point. I said, do you want to do one more? And before I couldn't even finish my sentence. And she was like, yes, where? Like she was ready to go. So, you know, as a coach, I'm always waiting for like, you know, I'm a little tired because
Yeah.
your biggest fear as a coach is like taking a great athlete and burning them out. Maybe not your
Yeah.
biggest fear, but it's definitely a concern. You know, like you're seeing it with Daraja. Daraja had 6 consecutive years of greatness and she just needs a break, man. She just needs a break. And it's not even that, it's not necessarily her body needs a break. It's like she needs a break. From the second she hit the stage in nationals 2018, she's been on the climb. You know, it's been a climb all the way up to number 4 in the world. So this year was just a lot for her to, you know, to complete. And I think I'm excited for her to get a break. But with Ari, she's on the other end of the spectrum. She had 3 years off of the sport, did our first show in July. It's now November, and she's like itching to compete again. So it was a no-brainer for us. And add to the fact that we've gotten better show by show by show. We've figured things out. We've figured out tan. We've figured out peaking. We've figured out posing, hair, makeup. Like literally everything has gotten to the point where this show was the pinnacle of the season. Getting what we got at the Olympia was awesome, but that she's still not, we can still be better, right? And so that's what I was excited for, was 2 more weeks. And if you guys don't know, Ari is literally a robot. She just goes home. Her husband is a full-time bodybuilder. He works and goes to the gym and eats, and that's what they do. So like as a coach, you know, she's a true unicorn, not even just physically, but just like her lifestyle, her stress levels, like everything fits her being a professional competitor perfectly.
Yeah. It's like the difference of, okay, cool, I've been running on the battery for a long time versus, hey, I just got off the charger, I'm full, which is, and to
Literally.
be fair, like with the way that Olympia qualifications are right now, if you're able to do a show after the qualifications have reset, like you get way more, the ability to take way more time off and like come in so much fresher next year for the O. Like, that ain't a
Yeah.
bad
So
thing.
it occurred to me, you know, when I said, hey, let's do this show, it occurred to me like, oh, cool. And then I thought, crap, we're not even going to be the favorite because Laura Lee's not qualified. Ashlyn Little's not qualified. Romina Bass isn't qualified. They all live within 30 minutes of that show.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Romina did the show, but Lauralee didn't do the show.
Lauralee didn't do it. Also, Amy, there was rumors that Amy Delgado, who was 6th, was going to do the show. There was rumors that Ashley Kaltwasser was going to do the show. So and the one great, not the one great thing, but one of the greater things about Ariana is that she does not have expectations going into these shows. So
is this a common theme we're creating here?
I wish I could blueprint that, right, I wish I could have everybody have a perfect life at home, no expectations, that kind of a thing. Because I noticed that theme, and I'm sure you notice it too. Like the competitors that have stuff settled outside the sport do better on the stage. You don't want to add life stress to trying to be one of the best in the world.
You don't thrive in chaos. And so like prep is hard. There's some semblance of maybe chaotic nature in that to a degree. We try and control that as much as possible. Like everything outside of like quote unquote prep, like if that's chaos, dude, you're gonna have a hard time getting what you want out of prep. Like,
yeah. So you're not fighting life to get on stage, whereas Ari is literally just like, cool, put me in, coach, let's do another one. And she's also getting a breast augmentation in December. We're not doing the Arnold. So it was literally like there's really no reason not to do it. We could only benefit. So I even told her, I said, let's say Lauralee and Ashlyn and Romina, and let's say all the top 6 show up at this show. The best thing for us is to stand next to these girls and build reputation. So, just like when, she did the Clash, after getting qualified, we did another show. And a lot of people were like, why are you doing another show? She just qualified. I was like, well, we haven't been in front of all the judges. We're getting in front of Sandy. Now Issa jumps in. We didn't win, but I promise you, we won notoriety. Everyone knew who Issa was. Everyone was looking at that going, wait, who's standing next to her? She looks pretty good. Right. So,
yes,
that's why we got top 10 in the world. Had I shut her down after Nashville and just showed up at the Olympia, she would have been 36th place. Right. They didn't know her.
There's something to be said with, I think, the idea of, okay, cool, I qualified, I'm here, I've done what I need to do on that, but standing next to the person who's going to be top 5 in the Olympia. Because now if you stand next to them and you're close and you're in contention, like, well, they expect you to be in contention at the Olympia.
Well, what was cool was Sandy
actually in that group.
Yeah, Sandy did a call out to end confirmation on both rounds of just Issa and Ariana, basically saying like, you guys are in a class of your own, let's walk it out. It was really fun. So yeah, that cemented her, at least in Sandy's mind, I'm sure, like, okay, this girl, I mean, our feedback was literally like, it was close, you won from the back.
Hey.
Yeah, and like
some shows that wins it.
Yeah, so she's like, we just need more polish, we just need to get better from the front, but you won from the back. And I was, we were over the moon with that, especially since Ari turned pro in 2019. That was the year that Issa won the Olympia. So for Ari, that was her target, when she first started competing. So, how cool was that she got to do a one-on-one pose down with the Olympia champion from her pro year.
That is cool. That is very cool. So I feel like when I was chatting with you a little bit on Sunday, you had a little bit of ants in your pants. There might have been a little bee in your bonnet on how, like, what you were thinking for prejudging.
So, yeah. So there's a typical way that bikini judging is done. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You just get used to the rhythm of how the judges work. Right.
Right.
So Tampa Pro, the prejudging with Ari, that was her like coming out party. She gets in the middle with Ashlyn. They walk them. They pull them back. They bring out the top 4 right away. Ari and Ashlyn. I know she's top 2. I know she's 1 or 2 all day. At this show, so they brought out the first call out of 8. Ari started in the middle, never moved. Yulia moved to the middle, to the right of her. Jasmine got moved out. So Jasmine was next to Ari. Then they swapped Yulia in. So it looked like, okay, Yulia's in second. Maybe Ari's in 1 or 2. And then Jazzy was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
They pull off 3. They take Ari, Yulia, Jasmine off stage, bring them in, go through a couple more rounds. Then at the end of prejudging, they bring out 3: Ari, Yulia, and Jasmine. Starts off with Ari in the middle. They move her to the side, bring Yulia in the middle. See you tonight. Now I'm like, what is happening? I was like, this is the best I've ever seen Ari. She looks incredible. She just got 7th in the world. And I'm, coach's goggles, whatever. I'm like, I just don't see it. Why isn't she in the middle?
And
So
like, no
again,
hate, but like Yulia looked amazing, and
incredible,
Jazzy might have been
To
the
be
best
fair,
she's ever been.
Yulia was a little tighter. Like, she was a little leaner, a little harder. And Jazzy is like mind blowing. That was the best she's ever looked. Her shape is incredible. I did, like my perspective, Ari's glutes are unbeatable from the back. They have the most volume at the top of a glute that you can have. They're just, when they have them walk to the back, if you haven't seen, like when most girls walk to the back, that's when you can kind of see the volume disappear. Her glutes literally don't move. It's like they just stay in place. And so like, I feel like that's where she's gonna be able to like start beating people that are ranked higher than her currently, is just that. So to me, I'm like, okay, she's got the best shoulders, she's got the best structure, she's got the best volume in her glutes, but maybe they're going to go with this conditioning. Maybe they're going to go with Jazzy's freaky structure. And honestly, like you can't get mad about it. You just got to go, okay, we got to come back better. But I just felt like this immense pressure because she just got 7th in the world, and I don't want to go into the off season without a win.
Right.
It's going to kind of change our whole strategy for the next year. So they come back for finals, and the nice thing was prejudging was at 11 a.m. So we were done by 12:30. Finals is at 3. So she literally went back to her room, had a meal. I fell asleep for about an hour, came back, walked in, and they were doing the wellness stuff. And then they line them up.
A little appetizer.
Yeah. Oh, I told Brett, I went to Brett's house and I said, Brett, you have to wake me up. I will not wake up right now. I'm exhausted. So he like shook me awake. So I got back in time. And I didn't feel any less angsty because they did the same exact thing. But this time they move Ari to the outside of the top of those 3. And they put Jazz in the middle. And then Jazz finished in the middle. So now Ari has not finished either round of prejudging in the middle. So I'm like, okay, so we're 3rd. I'm thinking we're 3rd now. So I literally just accept the fact that we're 3rd. Already start thinking like, okay, what am I going to do? What are we going to fix in the off season? And then they just start blasting the placings in 6th, in 5th, in 4th, in 3rd, Yulia Baba. And I went, whoa, I thought Yulia won.
Right.
So then I thought, oh, maybe we did win, because they really never had Jazzy in the middle all day till that last little bit.
Right.
And 2nd, Jasmine. And then I'm like, I think I was shaking. I was like, what just happened? I felt like I made a post about it because I couldn't really explain why it was such a like, yeah.
You got bamboozled.
Bro.
In a good way.
Yeah. I think I even still have scars from it. I literally went up to David after the show. So, she got up on stage. We got all the pictures. The line was long for feedback. We're literally the last person in line. And I just was like, I wasn't saying a word. I was just waiting for feedback because David inserts with the judges. And David says, David goes, wow. He goes, you're at your own show. And so she's like, what do you mean? He's like, you're on your own planet right now. You're so good. It's just amazing to see you up there. And so I just was like, David, did you have her in first from beginning of the show to the end? He's like, absolutely. Show was over. He goes, we were just having fun.
And that's not something you hear very often at pro shows.
Well, especially when people look like Yulia and Jasmine.
Yeah,
right.
Former Olympians. And dude, you didn't even talk about who got 4th.
Yeah, Sharon Ramos is going to be a force in this sport. She won the Clash overall, Amateur Olympia overall, pro debut, gets 4th to 3 really good Olympians, and beats Romina Bass.
Yep, because and Romina too. Another former Olympian.
Romina was just that wasn't Romina. That was that was not the typical roaminess. She was off. So I don't like, that wasn't the Romina that was at the Arnold in March. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Or what was it? New York Pro in 2021, I think.
Yeah.
That she
When
won that
she's
one.
on,
Ah, she
I mean,
was
she
good.
can damn near beat anybody.
Yeah. But so I mean, like that was a good lineup. There was a good showing, like good people there. So that's kind of very high praise and feedback.
Yeah, it was good to get that feedback. And I feel like, you know, now we can take a deep breath. We'll reconvene middle of the year next year, pick a show to come out. You know, at this point, it's really just going to be maneuvering her to get in that top 5 at the Olympia. That's the job this year. Is okay, what do they want from her? You know, this is where it's our job to get in front of the judges that are going to make those decisions and get feedback on, you know, and not for nothing, probably going to target a top 6 Olympian. I'm probably going to pick a show that one of them's at, hopefully, and get next to, because what people don't realize is that, well, maybe they do, but it's always a weird feeling knowing after prejudging at the Olympia, if you're not in the top 3, you are not qualified for the Olympia. It's a very weird feeling because they work so hard to get to the Olympia, and literally at noon on Saturday, your season is over and you got to start scratch. So that means right now, not qualified for the Olympia, Laura Lee, Amy Delgado, right? Like,
Yep.
though,
Unless you've won it.
Unless you've won it. So Issa's qualified. She got 5th. Ashlyn, not qualified. Daraja, not qualified. Ari got qualified now. So you're going to have to contend with all those girls coming out to compete in the months ahead, you know. And I mean, so that's why you see like some parts of the season are so stacked.
Right.
So I'd love to get a shot at beating somebody that we didn't beat before the Olympia. It might not happen, just because, you know, the way the season will unfold, but yeah, it'll be interesting. And she's going into the off season in a really good spot. Like she's well. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think probably a lot of people don't realize that because the pool of people who coach at that highest level is probably much smaller than I think a lot of us recognize.
I mean, there's the same 3 or 4 coaches at every show that do what I do. So yeah, it's a pretty tiny group. And you realize that's why they're there, because they're at the shows. Like, you know, not for nothing, I want to beat them all, and they all probably want to beat me. But like, I try to make decisions that are based on what's best for the athlete, not what's best for my ego, not what's best for the ProPhysique brand. That none of that matters to me. What matters to me is that, okay, we're putting the athlete in this position to succeed. And that looks different for every athlete, but
yes,
I'm not going to just run Ari through every show next year. I think, you know, we all saw Amy do that this year, and it was awesome, you know, to see, like, she won, like, man, did she win Clash, Wasatch, Pittsburgh, New York, Legion? I mean,
yeah.
And then to not win the Olympia, or at least not even be in the conversation to win the Olympia, it's like, you go, was that worth her time and energy? Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think that's a strategy I'll employ. It'll be more around getting her on the Olympia the best she can be, which will probably be a little bit more recovery time.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's nice that you don't have to have that same pressure of requalifying throughout the entirety of the year now.
Yeah.
Like that weight is off the shoulders. And that's like, that is a beautiful, beautiful thing when you're at the pinnacle of competition for what we do.
Yeah, it's almost like we got top 3 at the Olympia and we can just chill, but we didn't. Which what's funny is the top 3 requalify, but every year the top 3 has already been qualified because they're all they were all former champs.
Yeah. Hey man, that's how it goes. Where did Amy, like, and I can't even remember right now, where did Amy finish in the Olympia placing this year?
6th, same as last year.
So it was the same as last year, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one where you scratch your head, because she literally ran the table this year. Was, you know, she skipped the Arnold, which Laura Lee won the Arnold. Amy won every major show throughout the year, and then they were not in the contention to win. They were not in the final call out, which I think before the show started, if you'd have asked those people, Amy and Lauralee are definitely going to be fighting for it amongst those other
Yeah.
girls. So
I mean, I expected Amy to work her way into the top 5 this year, absolutely.
yeah.
Especially with the changes that they made. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what she does. I mean, if I recall correctly, she competed for 2 years straight. It wasn't just this year. The year prior, I know she won Nashville. I know she got top 10 at the Olympia. And earlier in that year, she had competed. So pretty sure she's been on prep for 2 years straight. So she's going to need a break. Or maybe she's not. Maybe she's a robot too. I don't know her that well. Like I know, Ari, but
I mean, I think who's the other one that Ashley, right? Ashley kind of does that similar thing where she can just, for whatever reason, she handles it all right.
Yeah, she never misses. She does not show up off, and that's commendable for sure. So like, she's kind of like the litmus test for a bikini pro. You got to show up to beat her. You've got to be better than her and on.
Yep.
And that's no easy task. I mean, I've only ever beat her once in my career. So that's, good for Ashley. She's what she calls herself the cockroach, which is hilarious. Like she just doesn't go away.
I mean, honestly though, like at a certain spot, like if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. So you can't be overtly concerned with the fact that like, oh, Ashley's going to be there, or this person's going to be, or that person's going to be there. You have to get to a place where no matter who's there, you're in the mix and you're in the conversation.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I love about the Olympia is that it's judged live. It's not a show that it's based on momentum or anything like that. It's who comes out on. I mean, literally, I had 2 girls that I thought could potentially win the Olympia this year, and when we got to meet with the judges for the road to the Olympia, and when I asked Tyler what I needed to do with them, he said it's all about how you peak them, how they look on show day. Like they're both capable, which is what you want to hear. It's just what we get on show day from them. And so that's really, I've had a lot more history with Daraja. I know when we're on, I knew we were like slightly off at the Olympia, but it was such a slight margin and they wanted us a little softer. I thought we might get in that top group. We just missed it. With Ari, I'm still learning what they want from her.
Right.
And we still, I think for us to win more, I think we could still be just a hair tighter, but it's a fine line with her because she's so muscular. If she gets a little bit tighter, she's going to start to get she had a glute striation at this show for the first time, like that upper glute division when she walked.
Yeah.
I think it looks cool, but let's say she comes down 2 more pounds and it becomes deeper. They might have a problem with that because they're like, okay, now all girls are going to try to get a striation. Right. So,
right. And that's not what they want.
Right. You're trying to, at this point, put her in position. So, well, she's going to be a different animal next year. Obviously, she's getting a nice break. I told her no lifting for the whole month of December.
Yeah, she really probably can't put on any more muscles.
No, I think just to give some frame of reference, because people always like to know like people's weights. Daraja at 5'2", show day woke up at 117, and I think the year before we woke up at 116 before we filled out. So like we were right there. Ari was 125 at the Atlantic Coast the morning of the show, and she's 5'6". So yeah. So I mean yeah.
So for reference, Sam is about the same height. I think she went pro at like 114.6.
Yeah, I mean that's
a huge difference.
That's that's density, as they say. That's the bubbly muscle. And I would love to take all the credit in the world. Yeah, I made art now. Like, dude, she came to me in April when she didn't look nothing like she does now, but you could just see it. Like she hit a couple poses for it, and I'm like, where do you come from? Like, where did you, she just started lifting weights with her husband and she kept up with the sport and did a lot of glute work. And I mean, just was ready to go. So, yeah. And it's kind of a cool thing for me to see because it's like, it doesn't matter if you disappear for 2 or 3 years. If you come back and fit the criteria, like she's obviously a phenom. Has there ever been a girl that in their second show win the overall at a nationals like that? Like,
God,
she knew nothing. Like the girl did not even really understand the sport. like
Yeah.
no suit sponsor, no supplements, no, like she was, it's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, that always scares me too, though. Because like as a coach, if your second show you're going pro and you're winning nationals, it's like one, you have all of the ability to like do well as a pro. But two, like if you rush that or you're not ready for it, like that can also create some real problems for people sometimes. Like that's a scary one.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've had, we've talked about it with April before. April went pro at her second show. She went to nationals, and it might have been 2019, dude. It might have been the same damn show. No, I think it was 2018. I'm sorry, it was 2018. Her second show, she turns pro. She needed a lot more muscle, and so she didn't really get to enjoy the sport. Ari, although she did make a pro debut in 2020, no one knew about it because she was maybe 4 or 5 pounds up from her stage weight at nationals, and she just didn't look the same. She,
Right.
she told me she was struggling to get her weight off. So I think she was burnt out at that point. She was like, okay, I'm done for a while. So time well spent, like
Yeah.
it's, so, and I got to give a shout out to my man, Brian DaCosta, because through all of this, I was prepping Brian for WNBF Worlds, which is definitely the oldest natural bodybuilding organization. I think still the most prestigious world title. Like me growing up, my favorite bodybuilder was Brian Whitaker, who was always like winning the lightweights, but could never win the overall world title. He would always lose to somebody. I think after 5 or 6 tries, he did finally get a win at Worlds. So with Brian this year, I mean, I knew he looked freaky. I knew but like conditioning, posing, like they work those athletes. Natural bodybuilding, like they put them through their paces. So when I heard he got moved to middle, so his class alone had 4 world champions. It had the 2-time defending WNBF world champ. That was his class. It had the current,
wasn't there, was he?
No. It had the current like DFAC world champion. It had the current like all these guys. He sent me the list of his class, and I was like I don't even follow natural bodybuilding anymore. I knew all of them. And so I was like, oh boy. So when he told me after prejudging that he was feeling very confident, and I had one of my clients watching, was like, Brian looks incredible. And I'm like, okay. So, he ended up winning the heavyweight class. Brian he's 5'9", and he woke up on show day at 195. That is I mean, with glute striated top to bottom, like that is a large man. Yeah.
Brian, I'm going to say it. I fucking hate you. Because I'm 5'10" and my low was like, what, 166? F you, man.
Bro, I'm 6'3", and my stage weight when I look good is like 190, 195, like in that range. Like, think about that. Get out of here.
The hatred. Let the hatred fuel you, muscles. Let's grow, please.
He's literally like the second coming of like Doug Miller, right? Like that's about Doug's stage weight. They're about the same height and weight. It's just bonkers.
I'm just jealous. Brian's actually one of the most wonderful human beings you'll ever meet also. So don't take that out of context.
He's so chill and down to earth. And his he had some very close people to him die while he was in prep. And so like there was a lot of meaning behind this prep for him. And honestly, like he did the Yorton Cup 3 years ago. And I love Brian, but he didn't take it seriously. He didn't shave armpits. And I had to remind him, I said, don't forget, Brian, when you walked out, they moved you to the center. It wasn't until you couldn't hold your poses and you weren't conditioned in the hamstrings that they moved you out. So I think that was in the back of his mind this whole prep. He was so focused on, I had him pose for 17 minutes to a prejudging that I send everybody for my natural bodybuilders. And so he was so conditioned for posing. He did the work. Like he became a bro this year.
Yeah, I just I remember in DC before the Yorton on his last season, like running into him, and I feel like he'd like eaten a bunch of cheesecake or something, or like all he was talking about was cheesecake, and I was like, bro, come on, man.
The night before the show, he's like, Coach, I felt flat, so I got some cheesecake.
Yeah. I'm just like, my dude, you are so good. When you get all the details down, you're going to be the person everyone's coming after.
Well, I think going to the Yorton, was the first time he ever saw it. He saw pro natural bodybuilding conditioning, which you can't explain it until you see it. It's like, it's mind blowing.
You ain't wrong.
Yeah. So I just remember, you know, those guys that were in his class that were beating him that had less muscle, less structure. And so I think, you know, he took that to heart, and he's done the work. So I've told him so many times this year, I'm proud of him. Not because like he needs me to hear that, but it's just cool to see somebody that you think has all the potential in the world tap into it and actually use it.
Yes.
And that's what he did. He said, you know, earlier this year, he said, do you like, not for nothing, he wasn't even a WMBF pro like 3 weeks ago. So we literally left it all on the line going to get his pro card. Then we had to qualify at a pro show the next day, and then he went to Worlds. So, you know, we literally just had a strategy around the whole season to go get his pro card and get qualified and go and see what would happen.
Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah.
amazing weekend to kind of not even finish up the year because there's still some shows left, but at least for the pros and for on a lot of ways to really like, yeah, wrap up the year almost.
It does feel like the end. I know we got nationals, but that's going to be like a celebration more. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a good one, which this is, it's a weird year for me because I'm not going to be there this year.
Texas is going to be different without you, man. I miss the Miami years.
I don't even remember some of the Miami years. So,
I mean, that is when edibles were invented.
Oh yeah, there were some times there, but
all right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to our therapy session. I feel better.
I feel better.
It's literally what I feel like right now. I feel like I need therapy. There's no one I can talk to.
Well, hey man, that's how it goes sometimes, but I'm looking forward to next year and another year of like opportunities for success and to do awesome things as well though. So that's always like, because not like while you're seeing all these people do well, there's still a whole bunch of other people just kind of like waiting to step up to bat.
Oh gosh, it's like the tip of the iceberg.
So much fun.
When you're seeing people compete as a coach, I'm like, wait till you see what I got coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
what is the saying?
Forward.
We don't rebuild, we reload.
So good things coming, man. Well, that's all I got. I got nothing else.
That's good for me today. Enjoy the ProPhysique code, guys. Get ready for the Command the Stage event, February, prophysique.com/events. It is a all weekend event where we are doing training, posing, talking about the science of nutrition, of training, about the strategy of competing. You're going to get expert advice from Brett Contreras. We'll have Daraja Hill there. I invited Ariana Brothers. She's on the come up. We're going to have an IFBB Pro League judge. It is female only, but it is open to everybody. It is not a ProPhysique only event. We want lots of fresh faces there. So if you're interested in coming, go to prophysique.com/events. Check it out. I think we're allowing a partial payment. It is a very limited roster spots. Every year we have people that are upset they didn't get it. So if you're interested, February in Tampa is a great time to come. So
beautiful time to be alive.
All right, brother.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Have a good turkey day. See you.